Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and I'd like to welcome you to my tutorial demo called MadLibGame1. And what we're eventually going to do here in the demo is we're going to build a little game that is styled after a game that was pretty popular when I was a lad. You would kind of fill in the blanks. Okay, I don't remember exactly how they made this physically work before computer-based games, but perhaps they made it work with carbon paper. I forget how they did, but they would ask you for a man's name, they'd ask you for a color, they'd ask you for all kinds of words, and they'd tell you the parts of speech and some details. You'd fill them in, and then you'd go on to the next page that probably went through it with carbon paper. And what you would see was a paragraph, a little story that had the name and the words that you picked inside, and they were kind of engineered to be humorous, right? Because it was only when you saw how these names and words and persons and places were used in this little story that you saw that it was pretty funny. Okay, and these were called Mad Libs. And so one of the first programs that I wrote way back when I was a lad was a MadLib program that prompted you for a name, it prompted you for this and that, whatever, and then what you got back in the end was a little paragraph story that was supposed to be humorous. So this is one of the original things I did, but probably the first thing that I ever did that was a conversation between a user who was typing at the console and the application program. So that's what we're going to do. But before we do that, we're going to do a demonstration of a class called scanner that we're going to need in order to have the input side of the conversation work. Okay, so I'm just going to, here in my chapter 3 demo project, I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call it scanner demo. Scanner demo, and it's going to have a main because we're going to run it and test it. Okay, and so far we haven't used classes in order to define Java variables that can refer to objects. We just haven't had to do that so far. The only class that we've learned about so far, well, we've used string and character. And those are both kind of special classes in their own way. And they're both part of a Java package called Javadoc, which means that they're easy to find. Okay? Now we're going to use a class called scanner in order to scan the console input and find the input that we want that's being typed in by the user. And that's a little bit harder to find and identify to the Java compiler than either character or string were. So first, even before we start to code this, let's take a look at the browser. Okay, and let's go and take a look at Javadoc. Okay, Javadoc is the formatted documentation for the Java API. That's a list of all the classes and like things that are part of Java that are distributed with the Java compiler. And that's what we've been using, even though we haven't really seen ourselves explicitly using it. So I have a link here to the Javadoc for Java 8 version SE, Standard Edition. That's what we're using in our course. And if you wanted to get to the same place, you could do a web search for just what I've written here, Java SE8 Javadoc, and you would get to the same spot. But I keep this on my little homepage so I can go right to it. And we come to the Javadoc, and it's kind of an old style user interface. We have this iframe where we've got 2 panels on the left, and then we've got one big kind of content panel on the right. And the panels on the left, the top one allows you to pick which Java package you want to look for, into for a class. Okay? Packages are a way to collect Java classes. They give us the opportunity to port them around, all the classes in the package at the same time, in order to share them with people. They also create a namespace. Okay, so we can have 2 classes named date, or 2 classes named scanner, for instance, that are part of different packages. Okay, so when we want to find out what a class does, what kind of properties it has, we go to the Javadoc, and if we don't click on anything in the top window, then we have a list of all the classes in Java. Okay, if we, in the top window, we selected the package that we want to look in, well, then we would get a shorter list, a list for that package. So right now, let's pretend that I don't know where the class scanner is. I don't know what package it's part of. Well, I just go down to the second of the windows and I start to pull down. I'm going to find S's. They're in alphabetical order. So R, okay, SE, SA. There we are, scanner. So if we click on scanner, the content for scanner comes in up on the content window, and we learn a bunch of stuff, okay? And over the course, we're going to learn to read this Javadoc better and better. But one of the things that we see up here when we know how to read this is that this is in the package java.util, which is where a lot of the utility classes are. And classes that are in java.util are not automatically found by the Java compiler. You have to point the Java compiler at them. Okay? Now, we haven't had to deal with that so far because the classes that we've used, string, math, character, they're all in a package called java.lang. So let's go up to this top part of the panel on the left. Let's click on the package java.lang. And you'll see, among other things, there are interfaces there, which we haven't learned about, but all the classes. So let's look for the ones we want. There's the math class. So here's how we find out all the things about the math class. The string class, string is there. Okay, what about the character class? Character class is there too. Okay, so the reasons that we're able to use those classes in our code and not do anything special to point the compiler to where to find them is that they're in a special package called java.lang. And it's kind of like a hometown favorites package. These are the classes that are truly built in, and you don't even have to tell the Java compiler where to find them. They're used so frequently, there's so much the hometown favorites, that they've set it up that if you're a class in a java.lang, you're automatically found. Now, this is the first time we're going to use one that's not in there. We're going to use one in java.util. Now, java.util holds a lot of utility classes. So when we click on that, now down in the panel on the left, we just see the things in java.util. there's a bunch of interfaces which we haven't learned about yet, but then we've got a bunch of classes. And if we go down to scanner, we're going to find out that, in fact, scanner is in the java.util package. Okay, so what can we find out about scanner? Well, we can find out a couple of things. One is that scanner is a typical object-oriented class and has these things that are constructors. So the constructor is called scanner, and we have to pass it a reference to some kind of file. Okay, and so when we create a new scanner, we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to use the new expression. Okay, so there's enough information here to know how to construct a new scanner, and we'll learn the details on that. And now here are all the methods. Okay, and here are the types that they return. And these are for the convenience of trying to read things that are being typed at the keyboard. So we can say, we can ask has next, which says, is there any input left that we haven't used? We can say has next int. We can say so that's going to, if we say has next, that's going to say, is there more, it's going to ask the question, is there more input available to be read? Has next int, is the next thing to be read an integer? So there's something there and it's an integer. Has next double, is there something to be read and is it a double? Okay, so we have all those things. Then, once you know that something's available, if you want to get a string, you just say next, and it reads the next thing as a string. If you're trying to read a double, you can say next double, which is down here. If you try to read an int, you can say next int. And that's how you get things in. So I'm going to show you how to use the methods. Okay, I'm going to show you how to point Java to the class so it can find it. And how did I find out what all the capabilities were? Well, I looked up scanner in the Javadoc, which is what we're going to learn how to do for every new class that we want to learn about how to use. Okay? So we're going to pause 1 second, and then we're going to get going on scanner demo. Okay, here we are. We're in scanner demo, and we're inside of main. We're going to be able to do all of our testing right here inside of main. Okay, so to use a scanner, we're going to have to create a scanner object that's an instance of the scanner class. So classes can be seen as blueprints for objects. So we want to define a variable that can hold a reference to a scanner object. So every time that we declare a variable, we begin by listing its type. So if you remember, if we wanted to declare an integer variable, we said int, and we might call it myInt equals 1. Okay. Well, here, if we want to create a variable that can reference or point to a scanner, well, we use the class name just like we did for strings, right? In fact, we said string, okay, my string equals Kevin. Okay, that's how we created a variable that could point to a string object. So it's not going to be too surprising that we're going to say scanner, and let's call it my scanner equals And then we have to say new. We want it to create a new object for us. New. We're calling the constructor on scanner, but it's the same as the name of the class. So new scanner, class name again. And then we're able to pass parameters into this constructor, which is a fancy kind of method, so that there's enough information to initialize the object. Okay, and what gets passed here? Let's put a semicolon here. Well, typically it's the name of the file you want the scanner for. And we want the scanner for the console. And it won't be too surprising that if system.out is what we use to print on the console, what we use to read on the console is system.in. So system.in is how we read the console. Well, this looks all good, but look at the red that's underlining scanner. That's not good. And if we look, we'll see scanner cannot be resolved to a type. Well, yeah, it's a class type. Oh, but the class is not located in that one special package that you don't have to do anything special for. It's not in java.lang. In fact, it's in java.util, and we've already found that for us. So we have to add an extra statement into our code that points the Java compiler to a class name scanner in the Java util package. And how do we do that? Well, the easiest way, we could wait for the quick fixes to come up. And if we clicked on the first one that said import scanner Java util, that would do it for us. But let's say that hadn't come up. Highlight the word that's not recognized, the name that's not recognized, right click, go down to source, and then go over, within source, pick add import. Okay? And what happened is it went and looked in all the packages that it had, and there are tens of them, okay? And it looked for a class called scanner, and it only found one in the Java util package. So it created an import statement which goes before the declaration for the class, and we say import java.util.scanner. Okay? So now this tells the compiler every time you see the class name scanner, know that the place to find the details about that is in the java.util package. Now, our textbook tells us a lazier way to do this, okay? A lazier way to do this is to not use the class name, but in the very last position here, put an asterisk, okay? If you do that, we are essentially importing all of the classes from the java.util package. So if we do that, then all of their class names are going to be recognized within our class. Well, you would think that's a good idea, but one of the major reasons that we have packages is to avoid name collisions. So we want to get as few class names in play within our class as we can. So this this kind of lazy man's import or lazy person's import, where we import all of it, all of the classes from the java.util package, is considered a bad coding practice. So let's get rid of this import statement altogether, so we'll have our problem back. Okay, let's just say that's where it is. So now here's our problem again. And you can pick either instance of the class name that's not recognized and highlight it, right click, and say source, add import. And again, it's added the import statement up here specifically for the scanner class. Okay. And it, so now the problem has gone away. Okay, now what would have happened if there was more than one scanner class that is found out in all the packages? It would have popped up a dialog box that would have asked us to choose which package we wanted. You can do that by looking at date. For instance, there's more than one date class. So if we say date, my date equals new date, paren, okay, so you can create a date without passing in any initialization parameters. If we highlight this and right click and say source add import, since there are two possible dates, there's one in the package java.util and there's one in the package java.sql, it's going to ask me which one I want to pick, and I'm gonna click on the one for java.util. I happen to know that's the one that I want in this case. Then I click on OK, and it puts the import in for that one. Okay, so that's as complex as adding an import can get. Okay, now we're not really interested in strings or ints or dates, so I'm going to get rid of all those. So I'm going to get rid of the date because that's a confuser. I'm going to get rid of the int and the string because that's a confuser. So I have a scanner. Okay. And what a scanner does is it reads input from the keyboard, and it reads it a line at a time, but it keeps it in a buffer area, and it will give it to our program in just the polite way that we want it if we ask it in the right way. So how does that work? Well, let's do this. First of all, typically when you're using a scanner, let's get rid of the console with the old answers on it. When using a scanner, this is to implement a console-based conversation with the user. So what we typically do is that we write a prompt message to the console, and then we ask the scanner to get the input. Okay, so let's do that. So let's write a prompt. Let's how do we write a prompt? The same old way we write everything that we have. Sysout. Okay, and then let's do the string. Enter your first name, colon, space. Okay, so we do that. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to get the response. So let's assume this is going to go well. So let's say my scanner, okay, and we want to call the method get next. So let's assume sorry, it's not get next, it's next. So let's just say my scanner next. And what you might have seen there is that I can actually see a synopsis of the Javadoc in some of the helpers that pop up. So my scanner next is going to get the next string that is typed into the input. Now, I just want to point out that this is an expression that doesn't do anything useful because it returns the string, but I've thrown it away. So, I have to declare a string answer equals, now let's call it, instead of answer, let's call it response. Okay, equals that. Okay, and now let's just print out the response. So let's say sysout control space. You said the following colon space, and then we'll have a plus for concatenation, and then we'll say response. Okay, so let's see how that works. We're going to save. We're going to run it. So let's run as Java application. It says enter your first name. Okay, now in Eclipse, if the last place that you were typing is up here in the program, if you just start typing now, you're going to be typing in the editor. So that's not what you intend. What you need to do is click down in the console. Okay, and now you're down in the console, and now you can say enter your first name, Kevin, and see that goes in and with a different color. Okay, and how do you tell it that you're done with the input? You press the enter key, and now it said you said the following, Kevin, right? So this is a pretty straightforward way to do this. Okay, so we have, to review, we have declared a variable myScanner, and we typed it by using the scanner class. Okay, we constructed a new scanner object by calling new scanner, and we said what file we wanted to use to scan, and what we're scanning is the keyboard input at the console, which is called system.in. That's the name of a file. So that's what we're scanning. Okay, you remember that we had to highlight scanner and add an import in order to get that. Oh, this is interesting. We don't need this import for date anymore. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so we had to add the import for scanner to get rid of that. And then we just did a really simple conversation. We had the application print the prompt, enter your first name, and then we had the scanner get the next character string out of what's being typed in, and we got that back. We put it into response, and then we printed out you said the following plus response. Okay, and if we run it again, we have to save it, I guess. If we run it again, enter your first name, click down here in the console window. I'm going to say my name's Freddie now. Okay. Okay, so you said the following, Freddie. Now, I just want to show you that this does exactly what we tell it to do, not maybe what we want it to do. Okay, so for right now, let's run this again, and let's say instead of just typing in your first name, let's type in two words separated by a space. Okay, I'm going to run it again. Enter your first name, click down here, and I say Kevin space trainer. That's not my first name. That's why I said the first name. Now, what am I going to get back? Is it going to give me the whole phrase, Kevin Trainer, or just the first string that it finds within the phrase? Just the first string. So scanners take an approach to processing the input that comes in from the keyboard and it's called Tokenizing. And what it does is it goes through and it tries to separate out groups of characters, which it calls tokens, and it tries to give them to you in a pretty rational way. So when you call next, it gives you the next token as a string, okay? And the default is that tokens are separated by white space characters, right? So that's going to work just fine, okay? But there are ways to do everything on a line, okay? So instead of saying that you want to get the next token, you can ask for the next line. So let's do something a little bit more useful, okay? So let's say enter your full name. So we're going to change it to a full name, okay? And next line is next, capital L-I-N-E, okay? So that takes everything on the next line, ended with enter, and puts it in and returns it as a string. So the string response is going to have the whole phrase in there. And let's just say you said that your full name is, okay? And then we're going to have that, okay? So let's save that and run it. Enter your full name, okay? John Smith, enter. You said that your full name is John Smith. Okay, what if I had more than 2 tokens in there? What if I ran it again and I said enter your full name, and I click down in the console and I go Kevin Trainer is the 5th instructor to teach this class. Okay, now are we just going to get 1 token or 2, or are we going to get all the characters on the line? Well, we're going to get all the characters on the line. So even though we ask for your full name, when we press enter, we're going to get back all the characters on that line. So there's a lot of things that you can do. There are methods you can call to test. Is there one more line? Do we have further input available? We can say that we want to get the next token and we want to treat it as a string. That's next. We want to treat it as a full line. That's next line. We want to treat it as an int. Next int. We want to treat it as a double. Next double. So there's all kinds of possibilities for scanners, and we'll learn more about them as time goes on. But for right now, we've learned to have a simple conversation getting our input from the scanner. Okay, so that is scanner demo, and I'm going to take a pause and I'll be back in just a second with MadLibGame1. So see you in just a second. Hi, I'm back. I had a couple of drinks of tea and I'm ready to go on MadLibGame1. So why don't we close scanner demo. Okay, and here in Chapter 3 demo, I'm going to create a new Java class, and I'm going to call it MadLibGame1. And I'm hoping that maybe we'll do a series of these games over the rest of the demos, because it's a nice way to show a conversation. Okay, and this needs a main because we need to run it all by itself. Okay, so MadLibGame1. It has a main. Okay, so this is going to be a conversation. It's going to take a scanner. All right. Now, if we want to be true to the skill that you're asked to practice in the homework, we want to put all of the work for this MadLibGame conversation into a method that we call. And we want to create the scanner before we call the method and pass the scanner into the method as a parameter. And you might say, well, why are you doing that? And I'm going to say for now, just because. I mean, I can think of 2 or 3 situations in which I would have a real motivation to do that. But all we want to do now is to demonstrate for ourselves that we can create any kind of object, and we can pass it into a method that we call. Okay, so let's define the method first. Okay, so it's not going to be in main, it's going to be its own. Okay, and let's call the method make MadLib conversation. Okay, okay, let's do it. So public static void make MadLib conversation. Okay. Okay, are we passing anything into it as a parameter? Oh, yes, we are. We're passing an already created scanner object. Okay, so let's have our formal parameter list here. We have type and name. So the type of the scanner object is scanner. Okay. And I'm just going to call it, I'm going to use the name the scanner. Okay. And so now I'm going to have curly braces for the code that goes into make MadLib conversation. Okay, now again, scanner is the name of a class that's not in the java.lang package, it's in the java.util package, so we need to create an import. So highlight that name, and I'm going to show you how to do the quick version now. Instead of right-clicking and then saying source add import, here I just go up, and if I hover over the error, it gives me a list of quick fixes. The first one is just what I want. Import the scanner class from the java.util package. So I'm just going to click on that, and whoosh, it's done. Okay, so look up there. Java.util.scanner has been imported. So now it knows when we use the name scanner that we mean that class from that package. So there's no ambiguity about where to get the code for what we're doing. All right, that's fine. Okay. And so let's create the beginning of a MadLib conversation. Now, first of all, before we start to put the code in the conversation, we're passing a scanner, okay? But we haven't really called this code yet. There's nothing in the main, all right? So again, let's say that we decided to save this and we decided to run it. It would run just fine, it just wouldn't do anything. It doesn't do anything because main is empty, okay? Now, it doesn't really matter what it says in make MadLib conversation. That's empty too, so it's a doubly empty. So let's go up to main and let's call make MadLib conversation. Okay. Say make MadLib lib conversation. Okay, and what do we have to pass it? We have to pass it a scanner. Okay, I'm not going to use the same name. I'm going to use a different name in main for the scanner than it's referred to in make MadLib a conversation or MadLib conversation. And I do this because I want you to realize that these don't have to be the same. So let's call this my scanner like I did in the last one. Okay, so I call that, well, that's fine, but I haven't declared my scanner yet. Oh yeah, we really haven't built a new scanner, have we? Well, before we have our call to make MadLib conversation, we need to declare a scanner. So let's do that. Scanner, my scanner, my S, capital S scanner, equals, and then we ask it to construct a new scanner object for us, new scanner, and then we pass in the name of a file, which is system.in. That just happens to be the name of the console input stream, and then we pass that. Okay, so now, so we declare a scanner. Let's get rid of a lot of our extra lines here. Okay, so we got that. And let's just put those two right together. I kind of like that. So we declare a scanner called my scanner. Okay, and okay, we call make MadLib conversation with my scanner. What's available down here? Well, what we get when we pass a reference to an object is we get a copy of the reference. Okay, so the scanner down here is actually a different thing than my scanner up here, but it's a copy of it. And what these things both do is they both refer to or point to the scanner object. And so because we're pointing at the same thing, we still can use the same scanner object. Okay, so down here, what's the first thing that we want to do? Well, we want to prompt. Okay. So how could we prompt? Well, plain old printing sysout. Okay, and let's say, please enter a man's first name. Okay, that looks good. All right. So then let's say we want to declare a new string to hold the man's first name. Okay, let's just call it man's first name, string man's first name equals the scanner, use the name of which the scanner is known in this method, which is the name of the parameter, not the name of the calling actual parameter, but the name of the formal parameter down here. Okay, the scanner, and let's call next, and that returns a string with the next token. Okay, so it's a first name, so we're just going to ask for one token. Okay, and now let's have every part of this be a two lines of code. So let's copy that first thing, skip a line, put this down here. Please enter the name of a color. Okay, and so let's call this next variable color. Okay, and let's say please enter an integer value between 1 and 10. Okay? All right. So do we want to so we want to have this be value. I'm going to call this value. And do we want to get the character string, or do we want to get it as an int? I'd like to show that we can get it as an int. Okay, int value, the scanner, we ask for the next int. Now, I'm just going to tell you here that what we're doing here is not safety-oriented programming, because if we were really trying to be safety-oriented, if we were asking for an int, we would make sure that they gave us an int before we tried to use it. Right now, we're just going to try to use it, and maybe they've got a problem with it, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay. So let's declare a story string story equals, and let's say story starts empty. Okay. And then let's say, let's keep adding things onto it. So we can say story plus equals. Okay, so that's how using story equals story plus. Okay, add on to the end. Man's first name. Man's first name. Plus, so let's say they type in Kevin. Kevin went to the grocery store. Okay. And then a space to go there. And then let's say again, story plus equal. We're going to add this onto the end. He was feeling kind of color. So color. Okay. And then we're going to say plus, and then just period space. Okay. So maybe he was feeling kind of blue. And then again, story plus equals he bought space plus, and then the last thing is value plus space kumquats. Put a period. Okay. And then we'll have a last sentence. Plus equals let's begin with the name again. Let's say man's first name. Oh, first name. Man's first name. It should be capitalized up here. Didn't get that typed exactly right. Man's first name And we say space enjoys shopping. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a character string called story that has our whole story in it. Okay. So let's say I said Kevin, blue, 25. Then it should create a string that says Kevin went to the grocery store. He was feeling kind of blue. He bought 25 kumquats. Kevin enjoys shopping. Okay, well, that's not very humorous, but I'm going to leave the humor for you guys to do. Okay, and now all we need to do is we need to print the story. Now, we're not going to worry about how wide the line is, okay? We're not trying to be too sophisticated yet. So now we're going to print out sysl, control space, story. Okay, and then we're done. Okay, so the entire conversation goes on in make madlib conversation. Okay, we're passing in a scanner just to show that we can do it. We want to be able to pass things around. We haven't passed around a lot of objects yet. We did pass around a string in one of our demos, but strings are kind of special kinds of objects, and here this is a full first class, in no way special kind of Java object scanner. So we're proving that we're able to pass one in, and then we conduct the whole conversation, and we prompt for all the values that we want for the madlib, and then we print the madlib as the last part. And of course, then we go back up to the calling code, and right after make madlib conversation, we finish. Okay, so let's take a look at this. It's saved. Let's give it a run. Okay, please enter a man's first name, Kevin. Please enter the name of a color, blue. Please enter an integer value between 1 and 10, 7. Kevin went to the grocery store. He was feeling kind of blue. He bought 7 kumquats. Whoop, we're missing a space before kumquats. Kevin enjoys shopping. Okay, so let's go up and look at kumquats. We need a space before the C. And now we're going to save and run. Enter man's first name. Remember, click in the console or you'll be typing in your program. You don't want to be doing that. Man's first name, Kevin. Name of a color, red. An integer value between 1 and 10, 1. Kevin went to the grocery store. He was feeling kind of red. He bought 1 kumquats. Well, that could use some work because it could be a kumquat. Eventually, we're going to have a madlib that is pretty darn sophisticated. So one that says he bought 1 kumquat, or if it's more than 1, he bought 5 kumquats. But in MadLibGame1, we're not going to be that sophisticated. And then Kevin enjoys shopping. Now, I just want to point out that we've got a pretty unsophisticated solution or algorithm here. Okay, so it's assuming that the user is going to do exactly what we ask them to do. Okay, so I just want to show you what happens when the user doesn't pay attention and we have a naive approach that doesn't check for them giving us bad input. Okay, so let's run this again. Okay, so we please enter a man's first name. Let's put just carriage return. Okay, now it's going to keep going until we give it. Okay, so then let's say Kevin Trainer, Okay. Please enter the name of a color. Please enter an integer between 1 and 10. So it took the second word, it took trainer as the name of the color. That wasn't what we wanted. Okay, so we've got, and then if we say please enter an integer value between 1 and 10, and let's say hi mom, which is text, then it's going to blow up. Okay, because it was expecting to get a number, it got a value of the wrong type. Eventually, we're going to do a version of MadLibGame that checks to make sure that they're actually giving us back what we want. Okay, but for right now, we're going to have to trust it. So again, let's go out on a good test. Let's run one more time. Please enter a man's name. Bill. The name of a color. Silver. Then integer value between 1 and 10. 10. And then Bill went to the grocery store. He was feeling kind of silver. He bought 10 kumquats. Bill enjoys shopping. Okay? So these are all the skills that we're looking for at this point. 2 skills. One is to work with a scanner in order to create solve some useful problem, and a MadLib is a fun little problem to solve. Okay. The other is to do it with a scanner that's been passed into our method. And a really important thing to see here is that when you pass a reference to an object, it's passed by position. Okay, so we're passing a scanner, my scanner. It's picked up here. You typically use a different name in the called code than you used in the calling code. I like to do that to accentuate the fact that what we are referring to here is the formal parameter, the scanner, and not to the actual parameter from the main my scanner. Now, how are those two related to each other? The scanner holds a copy of my scanner. And what do they hold? They both hold a reference to, or a pointer to, the same object. Okay, the one scanner object that we constructed. All right, and that's about all there is to know here. So having said that, I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.